I see that thumbs up. That's good. All right, so we're going to get started, guys. As I mentioned earlier, it really is my heart. I got some questions earlier as to Sharon, why is VARC hosting today? You know, how is this beneficial to me? My motto personally and professionally is working smarter, not harder. And I have a huge team, as I mentioned at the beginning, my VARC Solutions team, and of course, my VIPP community. And all of us have the same goal to help clients and to meet needs. And so this is an opportunity for you if you're a pro advisor, a CPA, a CFO, an accountant, a bookkeeper, IT professional, and so forth. You're going to hear from someone in your industry, in your lane, that's sharing their tips and tricks and strategies. And maybe you'll have that light bulb moment. So I hope you've got your pen and paper down, or your AI down, or your laptop or notebook or whatever floats your boat, because this is an opportunity, like a workshop, like a webinar, to lean in and get that expertise. So if someone in your industry says something to you and speaks to you, feel free again to put those questions in the chat. Brad, of course, will facilitate those at the end. We will handle all those questions at the end and get through as many as we possibly can. So, of course, it's presented by VARC Solutions. You've met Brad and I at the beginning. I'm the Strategic Partnership Manager for VARC Solutions. And Brad, you want to wave?
Hey.
So he is the CEO of VARC Solutions. We are married. We're co-owners of VARC Solutions. We've been in business for over 25 years. We are a brick and mortar. We have a team of about 20 employees. We are based in Friendswood, Texas, and we are QuickBooks experts and QuickBooks solution providers. And we're just thrilled to be here today and to present. This is a picture of our team, an extension of our team. And again, we couldn't do it without all of you. And we love to support our partners to help their clients and to meet those needs. And we have partners all across the country. Here's today's agenda. So, of course, you're about to meet all 6 panelists. They've each provided a bio. I'm going to be reading that bio so you get a better sense as to who they are. Even if they're in their industry, their bio is going to share some insight as to what is their areas of expertise. And also the panel format. I'll talk very briefly as to the structure for today to keep everybody on the up and up. The bulk of today, of course, will be the panel discussion, the nuts and bolts we're so excited about. This is the part where you're going to learn so much, followed by a Q&A, which we hope will be about 10 minutes. Next steps. So let's say at the very end, you're like, okay, well, what do I do now with this expertise? I'm going to tell you. We also have 2 upcoming special events that you might want to save the date, might be aware of. So you can, of course, mark your calendar. I know my calendar is color coded. Don't know if you're guilty of that, but it's nice to plan ahead, right? You guys are laughing, but that's true. We all color code, face it. Prizes we are offering, we always do. So if you've missed us, you've never been on the VIPP channel, free money, guys, and we need it in this economy, right? There's 3 prizes for $100. I will be sharing more of those details at the end. So I'm going to take a couple deep breaths. There's a lot of verbiage here, but it's good verbiage. I'm now going to take the opportunity to introduce each of our VIPP expert panels. We have 6 of them. So again, I'm super appreciative of their area of expertise. So let's get started. We have 2 pro advisors, and we have a ton of pro advisors in our VIPP channels. So we have both Leslie Simmons with Focus on Your Vision, and we have Leah Berger with QB Insights. So Leslie Simmons, Focus on Your Vision, is a QuickBooks-centric practice empowering small to medium businesses and not-for-profits to succeed. Leslie specializes in using QBO to support service-based businesses, example, physicians, programmers, inventors, and designers. She focuses on helping clients get set up, cleaned up, caught up, and trained so they can focus on what they do best. Once the foundations are addressed, Leslie is able to support clients through monthly bookkeeping, so she stays in touch regularly as their trusted advisor, and we're thrilled to have Leslie. Leah, with QB Insight, she helps small businesses automate, manage, and grow their businesses through expert accounting services, startup growth sales consulting, accounting systems automation, and cleanup catch-up systems. Leah is currently expanding her services to include both classroom and webinar training, making it even easier for individuals and company groups to access professional QuickBooks education. And there's more. We have 3 CPAs, 2 of which are on this slide. We have CPA Kevin Lacey with Marner Consulting Group. We also have Hal Rosen, a former partner of Haney and Company, joining us today. Kevin has been in accounting for over 30 years. Can you imagine? Specializing in technology and accounting systems, Kevin has not one, but 2 companies. Marner Consulting focusing on inventory implementations and consulting, and his other company, You Need a CFO, doing CFO strategic advisory. Kevin is a CPA and holds an MBA from Central Florida. Kevin will also be leading a session at Scaling New Heights, and we're going to be there as well. Hal is mostly a retired CPA. He says mostly, which means he's not retired. Hal has spent most of his career working with small businesses who use QuickBooks and preparation of their business and personal tax returns. Before merging his local company, Haney and Company, in 2018, Hal owned a local CPA firm, was a serial entrepreneur. I definitely want to know more about that, and was involved in real estate financing for 35 years. See, I told you they were experts. We also have 2 additional panelists. Yes, there's more. We have a business strategy consultant, Dan Colby with Process Distillery. Process Distillery is a business strategy firm that takes a 360-degree view of the business. So Process Distillery can truly improve the business processes and correct challenges rather than just stack Band-Aids. I love that, Dan. And our last, but certainly not our least, Brian Potts, the CFO to go. He is a CFO and a CPA. Yes, experts. Since 2009, Brian has served as a CFO for small to medium-sized businesses that need the knowledge of a CFO, but not on a full-time basis, which is definitely the trend. Brian has had a lot of expertise in restaurants, having worked for a 32-unit independent group, invested in a restaurant on San Antonio's Riverwalk, and partnered in a fine dining concept. So Brian decided to combine the CFO and restaurants in the name of the firm, the CFO to go. So again, kudos for all of the experts. See, I told you, between all of us, what we have, probably 300 or more years of experience. So we have a lot to offer. So sincerely, guys, I'm so appreciative for you guys to share your expertise so you can help someone in your industry that's on this call. Here's a little bit about our format. To move things along, I'm not going to read this, but just know there's a bunch of great topics. You can see the bullets listed there. All of the panelists, just so you know, they have all received all the questions ahead of time, and there are roughly 2 to 3 of them that are going to be speaking on about each question. That way you get a diversified panel, diversified experience, and everyone gets to share their expertise. And we did our best to kind of maximize that. Again, with questions, we're going to keep this panel going because we're about to get started. So any questions you have for a panelist, please put it in the chat. Brad, my other half, the CEO, he is moderating that, and we're going to get to that as quickly as we can. So without further ado, let's get started. Question number 1 in this order will be Leah, Kevin, and Hal. So here's the first question. Why did you first join the VIPP Partner Program? And please provide one example how it specifically helped you grow your business and or solve a client problem. So Leah, would you kick us off?
Hi, everyone. It was really funny. I was actually walking down the halls of Scaling New Heights. It was about their 2nd or 3rd year, and I had heard about it. I said I wanted to go, and it was Robin and Mary there, and they sort of like pulled me in from the aisle and said, "Hi, do you know about our organization?" And I said, "No, I didn't even know that there was anything like this." So for me, I'm a solopreneur. I work for myself, by myself. So this is sort of like as if I literally have a partner that I don't have to share revenue with, but they are always there to help me. And the first thing that I had gotten from them was that I was using Transaction Pro to import things. And when I called up, I said, it's just not easy to use. And they said, "Oh, why don't you use Sasan? We use Sasan." So I got from literally, that was the first year. I got like such a great help because it was just amazing that it was so simple. And any questions that I had, I could always fall back and call on you guys to help me out with any problems. So you were a great, and always were, and hopefully will be, as long as we are, to be a great partner for me.
Thank you, Leah. Kevin?
I first joined VIPP for the community. I think I met some of the people that were members in other communities that were much bigger, but I think the point where we could get to know people in the organization and really get to interact with them on a closer level really helped move things forward for me. So I've gotten several calls and had several discussions with people in this group about the area that I specialize in, which is inventory. And you get known in the group as an expert in an area and tell enough people what you do. And when that thing comes up, they know who to contact.
Yeah. Hal?
You know, until I retired, I attended 13 of the first 14 Scaling New Heights and met a lot of people there, made a lot of good friends. And one of them was a QSP for, basically was Intuit that had me interested. In those days, we tended to get more commissions out of Intuit, unlike today. And so I joined there, but they really didn't have support. And after a number of years, they announced that they were turning everybody over, or suggesting that you go with VIPP and VARC Solutions. And I knew Robin and a little bit about her practice. So that's how I joined VARC. And it's been very different being with VARC, because VARC is much more oriented to helping the practitioner and providing not just with QuickBooks, but for many other related services. You know, in one area that they really helped us is when after the now I forget their name, the sales tax decision made, and which made a lot more people subject to sales tax because of economics, not because of Nexus. We spent about 4 years trying to find the provider for sales tax for our clients, and found one that we really liked, and then they got funded by 2 of the largest CPA firms, and they didn't have time for us anymore. And finally, it was through Robin and VARC that introduced us to Avalara. Now, we'd called Avalara multiple times. In fact, my name was in their database 7 times, and my assistant's name was in the database 7 times. Every time we called, we got different answers. VARC got us introduced to the right person there that's taking care of us, and that has helped solve a lot of client problems. Yeah, and being able to do that.
Thank you all. I appreciate that. And Hal, I believe you were mentioned that was Avalara, I think.
Yes.
Yes, it's awesome. And for those of you that don't know, we do handle third-party solutions. You'll see that at the end of today's chat. And of course, because of our 25 years in business, we have that top tier level support. So that's what Hal is talking about. So rather than get bounced around a 1-800 number like Intuit or someone else that you're trying to deal with, we do try to escalate things. And that's what we do, and we do it well. So question 2, thank you, Hal. Question 2 is going to go to Leslie, Dan, and Brian in that order. So question 2, successful VIPPs interact and follow up with their clients regularly and often. Describe your specific client check-in process and your ideal game plan. Leslie, can you start us off?
Well, hi, everyone. Because after doing all the troubleshooting and the cleanup, clients are like, I don't ever want to deal with this again. They say, would you manage my books? So I actually became a bookkeeper for many clients. And I use that little mathematical exercise as a way to look at their books and analyze things for them and provide them with monthly reports. So what that does is it helps me stay in touch with them on a monthly basis and give them an opportunity to understand where they've been so they can plan where they're going. And one of the other pieces I want to mention is just because I meet with them once a month doesn't mean they've done all the improvements that I've recommended. So I have a hit list that I warned them when we started working together. These are some of the things that we've agreed we're going to implement. We're going to make automated invoices. We're going to stop having multiple islands of information. Anyway, so every month it gives me an opportunity to say, are you ready to do this payroll thing? Are you ready to do this next activity?
Leslie, I love that. You're speaking my language like an accountability partner.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. Dan, would you also like to share?
Absolutely. Yeah, we've got a few things that we do. Part of it is just systematic as well. One of the things that creates an amazing feedback loop is that the simple process of invoicing weekly in tremendous detail. Our customers rave about our invoices because they can actually tell what they're paying for. That seems like a funny thing, but we bill in 15-minute increments, and we require at least one sentence per hour of work. And so, it serves as essentially a status report every week. But we also stay very focused on driving value. And so even in how we deliver, we want to make sure that when they get that invoice, that they're seeing the value for it. So even the way that we chunk our projects is quite intentional to make sure that we're able to roll out feature sets and functionality as they pay for it. So rather than having to pay and pay and pay for months and months and months and then get some finished product, we're constantly driving value and then asking for feedback as we do releases or as we do feature sets. And then one of the other big things that we do is my wife, who many of you've met, Erica, she's actually our Chief Experience Officer. And so she has a formal process where as we close any engagement, she'll follow up and look for feedback and, try to garner testimonials. So we're really proactive in terms of making sure that the lines of communication stay open. And, that breeds happy customers. But then going back to what Leslie was saying, we actually have a formal process where as we're building out any scope of work or working on any project, we have an internal document that we call our customer roadmap. And so as we see the challenges in their organization, we may not even talk to them about it yet, but we're actually plotting out kind of the order in which things need to happen for them to be successful. And so I've got some customers where I'm 3 to 5 years out because I know that there's 50 things that need to happen before that one thing that I see can actually come to be. So even on a scaled down version, even if you're just a bookkeeper, having a customer roadmap can really help you to build your internal processes for a sales pipeline, because you can kind of keep track of the order in which things are happening and then circle back around as you see them completed to try to sell them the next engagement or the next add-on or the next customization, whatever that looks like.
Between Leslie and Dan, it's very intentional. Everything is done with purpose and intention. So, and communication, you can all benefit from that. Brian, can you also add your comments and thoughts?
I'll be glad to. First, I'll admit that I am a terrible communicator. Things that I could and often do spend my entire day answering emails and answering the phone, and then end up doing my real job nights and weekends. So there are times that I just disappear so I can get work done. Now, I know that's not great, but the way I work around that is with our engagements. Like Leslie, I didn't get in this to become a bookkeeper. I want the consulting piece, but 95% of the time, the books are so bad you can't consult on it anyway. So by default, we had to take over some of the accounting. And I was not going to do it for run-of-the-mill price. I mean, if they just want someone to reconcile a bank statement, it's not me. So we had to create an offering that had more value, and that was including a once a month meeting Zoom with me to review the financial statements, their financial position, what their plans are, things like that. And so I try to schedule those on a set day and time every month, say the second Wednesday at 2:00. And that way it's on the books. Amazingly, most clients tend to not be available. But that, instead of them saying, hey, all I'm getting from you is bookkeeping, it's like, not my problem. We were on the phone at 2:00 on Wednesday. We're ready. You just didn't take advantage of it. So that helps tremendously. So that's the big thing. And then the piece that I'm missing is, if they don't attend, what am I going to do? Because in these meetings, I'm usually just Zooming and showing them sharing the financials and pointing things out and saying things. I have to then turn around and write it all out and make it presentable and all of that, which I don't have time for. So my next project, my next game plan is to use Reach Reporting to create a custom monthly package that is basically automated. It touches in on a little bit of AI, but the format's going to be identical for every one of my restaurant clients. And we'll review that in the monthly meeting. If they're not there, I'll just email them PDF and consider my fees earned for the month. So.
Love it. And by the way, for those of you that may or may not know, we have a line card, roughly 30 third-party solutions. And Brian just mentioned one of our newbies that we recently added. We vet them strongly. And Reach Reporting is actually one of our new third-party solutions. So if you have questions about that, email me at vipp@varksolutions.com and I can tell you more information. So Brian, I'm glad that you're utilizing that. That's wonderful. So our next question is going to go to Hal, Leah, and Dan. And I love this question, and I get it a lot from my VIPPs, so I'm pitching it to you guys. So lean in, guys. You're going to love the answers here. How do you help a client implement a change that they don't want to make? Hal, can you share your insight?
Sure. So before I start, Brian and Sharon both mentioned Reach Reporting. I'm very familiar with them. Great company and tremendous financial statements that you can set up and then just duplicate month after month, and you can customize a great company. Being very analytical, I like to use pro formas and to show a client this is what's going to happen if you implement this. And if I can show them that it's not just a $2,000 increase to their bottom line, it's a $50,000 or $100,000 or more, and they're not interested in it, I'm probably not interested in them, and I just say goodbye. Those that are good clients pay attention, and they're very interested in making more money. So that's, to me, it's fairly simple.
Yeah.
Hi. Okay. Most of the time, I actually also I specialize in inventory as well as other types of companies. When I am trying to implement a change, I get a lot of the information and feedback from the client, because they're the ones either that reached out to me and said, oh, I'm having a problem with this, or it's taking too long for this. And they are sort of like giving me a little bit of an opening. And then when I discuss things with them, I try to map out a value, whether it's time, whether it's money, just for it to be a smoother transition. So when they don't want to make that change, I say, I'm going to remind you every time you call me and say, oh, I'm having this problem. And I would say, really? Well, it would be great if we would implement this change. So most of the time, like Hal said, if the client is not interested, because either they'll give me like, oh, it costs too much, or I can't do it, and I don't want to waste the time. I just try to make them understand they're not wasting time. They're putting in time so that they will save time, money later. And again, if they're not interested, or if they're like very wishy-washy about things, then they're just not a client for me. And so that is my take on it, that I sort of feed on what the customer tells me is wrong, and then show them the way of how it would make their life better doing the change. And most of the time they'll change their mind and say, okay, let's go ahead and do it.
And Dan's going to close this question out. And I know that this is definitely your sweet spot. So I cannot wait. If you can see from smile ear to ear. So Dan, would you also share your expertise?
Yeah, it's this is something we deal with every day. And we really get into the psychology of the decision-making process. As a business strategy firm, we typically have the luxury of, having the ear of the C-suite. And so when I hear that they don't want to do something, immediately it's like, well, break that down for me. Help me to understand why. And it's funny, some of the things that get in the way. It might be that the primary user for the new process or tool, is old school and they don't think that they'll ever use it. Or it might be that, they're looking at the expense. And, I had one literally just this week where They were really struggling with the dollars. And so I had a conversation with their executive. This is a multi-tier company, so director level of the parent company. And I said, are you taking this stuff as operating expense or capital expense? And he's like, oh, no, we're taking it all as OpEx. And I'm like, do you realize you could be taking it as CapEx? And he's like, what do you mean? And so literally, we just completely changed the dialogue over simply changing the line item. It wasn't a cash flow problem, it was a budget problem. And I solved the budget problem by asking the right question. And so just understanding the psychology of the no and where is the no really coming from? Is it the no from the owner, from the CFO? Is it no from the line of business because they're worried about how it's going to affect operations? But at the end of the day, it typically comes back to being able to actually quantify the return on investment and the cost of benefit. That's really tricky, but I want to open it up. If any of you have one of those deals where you feel passionately that they need to do it and you're just hitting a block, well, happy to jump on and talk strategy with anybody. We do that literally every day.
Thank you. Thank you all for sharing your expertise on that question, because I know we all struggle with that. So it's great to get some insight and expertise.
Hey, Sharon.
Question. Yes, Brian. Yes, Brad.
Just going to jump in real quickly. One thing. It's like
Sure.
one thing I like to do on these type of panel calls too is bring together some things that you guys are saying that might not be like completely like what do they call that? It's below the surface, but maybe it should be said explicitly. One of the things that I've heard from the panel so far is really being selective about the clients that you work with. So I think it's worth just explicitly saying that that's something that we probably should be looking at, right? Because it's really hard, especially when you're starting out, because you feel like you can't turn clients away. You have to take this client. But we've all had clients that we would rather not work with that we probably in hindsight would have loved to have said, you're not a fit. So partly why I bring this up is just to give the people on the call permission to say, hey, you are not a great fit for our services. And maybe there's somebody else in the partner network that would be a better fit, but we're not it. And just being able to say that confidently that, this is not a good fit for the services that you're telling us, here's the problem. We're giving you the solution on a silver platter and you're still not doing it. That is not a client that I'm going to work with. So I just think that would be worth calling out.
And not just on the front end. I mean, most liberating day of my life was when I fired a client.
Yeah.
It was wonderful. I need to do that more often.
So Brad, can I share just a tactic that we actually have on this? So we have an in-between state before we fire a customer, which we're not afraid to do. We've done it a number of times. We actually have a different rate schedule called our PITA rate schedule. Is everybody familiar with what PITA is?
Pain in the ass.
You got it. That's right. So if after a period of time they're just not getting it, and we're just like, do we really want to work with them? We just increase their rates because they're going to have to pay for our services. And what ends up happening is over 50% of the time they self-select to go find someone else. And that's where we were headed anyway. But then we don't have to have the difficult conversation. But if they stay with us and they're willing to pay us, then it's like, all right, that makes sense for us. So again, there's more than one way to skin a cat.
Right.
From our side, if someone says they're price conscious, that means they're going to be a lot of trouble, and they automatically get the highest price I've ever charged anyone for that service.
I love it.
This is why we have the expert panels for these particular types of situations. So Brad, thanks for pointing that out and just having us address it, because it is very important to have those conversations. It's like the pink elephant in the room, but we need to have it. And again, guys, for those of you that are joining us, this is coming from experts, been there, done that, backwards, forwards, and sideways. So they're telling you, hey, it's okay. You have the permission if the client is not a fit for you and your business. So question 4 is going to be for Brian, Dan, and Leslie. Getting back to QuickBooks related questions, what is the most effective way to identify when your client needs a different in 2 categories, whether it's a QuickBooks product or a third-party solution? So Brian, can you help us identify how do you address that with your clients?
I will. Listen to your client. Almost every time they will tell you what their problem is. Maybe not in so many words, but they'll say, I just can't get the system to do this, or I really need a report that does that. And with our experience, we know how to address that with the different third-party providers and everything else. Other times you need to do it in some of your financial analysis. For example, most rookie restaurateurs use the cash basis of accounting. They don't call it that. They don't know what that is, but they're recording their expenses when the bill is paid, not when the goods are received. And so as I'm doing the analysis and their food cost is 55%, and you say, this is unacceptable. They say, well, it's because I got behind on some bills and paid it here and here and blah, blah, blah. That leads up to the question, the suggestion, not only do they go to accrual, but that I can sell them an AP automation system that will help me and them. So that's one of the ways we do that.
Love that. Dan?
Yeah, it's a little bit different with every customer, but I think the primary thing is really to identify whether what they're talking to you about is the root problem or a symptom. Over 80% of our calls, the customer's calling with a symptom, and we have to take them 3 steps back and understand why they're having that problem. And that's where you get a cross-sell or upsell to a third-party solution, or changing the configuration of QuickBooks, because it's like, well, I'm looking for an app that'll do X. And it's like, you're thinking, well, QuickBooks can do that. Why aren't we using QuickBooks? And sometimes they just don't have the features there. But other times it's just that, they're kind of underthinking it, and they're relying on us to not just sell them another third-party solution necessarily. Nothing wrong with third-party solutions. I sell them every day. But most of the time, it's take a step back and understand what the business problem is, rather than just slapping another Band-Aid on. When I talk about stacking Band-Aids, that's exactly what I'm talking about, is finding the right solution, finding the solution to the problem, not just to the symptom.
We run into a lot for you. A lot of our VIPPs are overwhelmed when it comes to inventory, and they don't even know where to begin. And Kevin has been so great by giving us some discovering questions to have those types of conversations, Dan, that you're mentioning, because a client will reach out to us at VARC and think, I want X third-party solution, but we're not going to just give them information about X. And so the first step we do at VARC, and Kevin does this beautifully backward, forwards, and sideways, and just like what Dan's describing, is asking very specific, very intentional questions and trying to figure out all their gaps, because on the outside, we don't know their workflow, we don't know their problems. And so 1 or 2 sentences is just not going to get us the picture that we really need. So I really just appreciate you pointing that out. Leslie, also, I would love for you to respond to this question as well.
Well, I'd like to say what Brian said is almost verbatim the thoughts that I had, but I'd like to go to the underlying point of all of this. It's to be in constant communication with your client and to not be passive. You have to be proactive and involved. It's not just numbers, it's their life. And I want to mention one other thing. My clients say they feel cared for, they feel well advised. Very often they're coming to me with a relationship with a former CPA that was adversarial, that they were disappointed in them, the books were always wrong. And one of the things in my previous life, I was a budgeteer at the Federal Reserve Board, and nobody likes your budget person. Okay, so the way I managed to be successful at the Fed was to not be in an adversarial relationship. Let me help you build your budget. Let me help you reach your goals. And I take that same philosophy and apply it to all these businesses, because I have to remember these businesses are their lives, my clients' lives. And for me, as a bookkeeper, whatever, it's just numbers. It could just be numbers, but it's not. It's somebody's life. And so I'm very respectful of that. And that's why I try to make them feel that they're cared for and I'm watching out for them. So to be specific about how do I know whether they're in the wrong product? I'm in the middle of working on a client that has 15 or 20 QBO advanced subscriptions. They don't need them like that, but they need the users. So I invited them to start investigating the IES with them. So we're discussing it. We're looking at that. And by the way, this is where VARC came in. VARC was able to show me, Adam, and I forgot who else helped me see what that IES really looked like, what the 3 features were. And this is where VARC comes in shining, because I had a complete visual as to what that client needed. I've also downgraded clients because they're no longer job costing. They don't need the classes. They don't need the customer billables, so you just pay attention to what they're doing, and it helps. That's all I was going to add.
So sorry to interrupt, but Leslie, thank you guys so much. As you can hear, what I'm hearing from a lot of y'all is that you're listening to your clients. You're being very intentional with your follow-up questions. You're being very intentional with who you're working with. So you guys can hear there are some trends from all the experts if you dig a little bit further. So question number 5 will probably be our last question. We'll see how the time goes. If we can get to question 6, we will. We'll just see how it goes. Question 5 is for Hal, Dan, and Leslie. If you could offer a new or inactive VIPP, so people that are on the call or maybe watching the recording that aren't as active, aren't the expert, but they're here for a reason. They're either watching the recorder or they're here with us today going, I want to be like that pro advisor, that CFO, that business consultant, so forth. What advice do you have for them to maximize their partnership with the VIPP program and our team here to support you? So what recommendation do you have? Do you think is critical for them to meet more of their client needs? So what is your first advice? Let's start with Hal.
So later, Sharon's going to show you a slide of all the different software vendors that VARC deals with. Don't get overwhelmed by that. It's very easy to get overwhelmed by it. Choose one, maybe 2. Or the next time a client asks you a question and you don't know the answer to it, call VARC. They probably do know the answer. They probably do have experience with software companies. That's where I started getting really a lot of help, is when I would call. I've got an inventory question. I'm not an inventory guy. Well, they referenced me to Sin7 and to Katana. Talk to both of them. They saved me a lot of time in researching. I mentioned Avalara earlier. If I'd have known the connection they had with Avalara, I would have started there to begin with instead of wasting 4 years. So don't get overwhelmed by the big picture of all those different things on that slide. Just pick 1 or 2 and focus there.
Great advice. Dan?
Yeah, I'll jump right on with that. I think it's as simple as call sooner. If you don't have a solution at your fingertips, if you haven't done it before, don't spend a lot of time researching it. Reach out to VARC, reach out to the other partners. Somebody in the network has dealt with it before. And that's the other thing is, I don't think of VIPP as the traditional partner program. VARC isn't a software publisher. They have curated this amazing team of professionals and lean into each other. It's not just about VARC. VARC will absolutely point you in the right direction. So if you're not sure, definitely do that. But whether it be me or the other panelists, we all have decades of experience and we're happy to help. We're all part of the same ecosystem. And so that's really my message is don't think of VIP as a partner program. Think of it as an ecosystem and lean into it. It's your friend for sure.
Hear from the panelists that are here, as well as some other additional VIPPs. I hear this a lot. Sharon, I'm so glad I reached out to VARC because I think of you as an extension of my office. And I always tell a new prospective VIPP, we're working with you to support you as the VIPP. Your client is always staying your client, but we're extra resources. We've saved all the time. We've done all the research. We have the experts. We have QuickBooks certified technicians at your disposal. So we really appreciate this partnership that we have with you guys. But if we can share your expertise, it's free. There is no membership fee. It's just one commissionable sale. And so we can talk more about that. But Dan, I just wanted to say that because, of course, I do appreciate you saying utilize the VIPP program because we all have the same goal is to help clients. And we all want to do that more successfully. Leslie, would you wrap up this question for us as well?
The only other thing, I think the things that you fellas have said are just spot on. The only thing I would encourage people to do is attend the webinars, even when it's not a subject that doesn't seem to be applicable. You may find in the back of your mind, it triggers something. You're like, oh, this could help so-and-so, or it could help me in my business. And so VARC has become, like Dan said, it's not just a reseller program. It's so much more. Like Leah said, when you're a solo practitioner, you feel like you're in a silo and you're alone and you don't know, you can't be an expert in everything. And like Hal said, you get overwhelmed. You could get overwhelmed. And so everyone has pointed to the one point that I think is critical, which is that VARC supports my business. I no longer worry about being an expert in everything. I'm an expert in QuickBooks. I'm happy with that, and maybe payroll and some other things, but I don't have to know everything about all the 30 or 40 or God knows how many you have now software programs that my clients might need. And that's
Love that. And thank you, guys. Well, that's a wrap. We have more questions, but because of time, as to be expected, we all like to talk. That's what happens. We're going to go right to the heart that you guys have been waiting and chomping at the bit, which of course would be our questions. So this is your opportunity. So Brad, if you would go ahead and show your camera if you haven't already and unmute yourself. So Brad at this time is going to share any questions that are in the chat, or he's going to share some as well that have come up throughout. So Brad, I'm going to hand the virtual baton to you at this time. And if you would start us off with any questions that you have for the panel.
Yeah, absolutely. And just also just to encourage people that, great expertise being shared here. And so if you do have a question, now's the time to go ahead and put it in chat. And I don't know if we've got everybody unmuted or can unmute, but if somebody also just wants to unmute and ask a question out loud live, that's totally fine too. Mary Polly had a question specifically for Dan. So, Dan, the customer roadmap that you talked about, can you just tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah.
Specific software? Is it just something you use in Excel to track that? Like, just tell us more about that.
Absolutely. So we use a tool called Miro, Miro, Miro.com. It's a web-based whiteboard and mind mapping tool. So you can create a lot of different flow charts and graphs and things like that. And so we will typically do it